let's start working on the doors for our car. What I'm going to do is select everything in the screen right now, and I'm going to add it to a new layer that I'm going to call car. We'll go ahead and hide the car layer, and I'll bring up the door layer. So now we have just the doors sitting here. Also, I'm going to take this entire side of the car, this entire door anyways, and let's make sure we're showing everything. So let's hit Shift tilde on all the pieces. Let's say Shift tilde, Shift tilde, Shift tilde, and the mirror. And let's grab everything. I'll hit the up arrow key and hit delete. We're just going to build one door, and then we'll end up mirroring the door back over, so no big deal there. The first thing I'd like to do is start working on some of these end surfaces that go around the inside of the door, inside all of the padding. So, to start on those, let's go down to our low-res model, and let's begin with just a few simple edge extrusions. Start pulling in some of this detail that we have. So I'll switch to extrude edge, and we'll just pull this a bit forward. Notice I did that in World Z. Now, just keep an eye on what's going on in the photos here. Now, we have a couple of photos of these doors, and they both pretty much tell the exact same story. We have a sort of an indentation back here. This area comes out a little bit more. There's a catch back here. We are going to be simplifying these pieces a bit, but we'll get the general shapes in there fairly simply. Now, let's grab, notice just these four edges down here on the bottom. We'll extrude these a bit more forward. And if you look at this in the smooth, you can just kind of make out what I've got here, because these two edges are parallel, so they're going to get just about the same shading. Now, let's move up here. And what I'm going to do is grab my Append to Polygon tool, and I'll just append this polygon straight across. Now, what that's going to do is leave me with kind of a floating edge here. If I were to select this vertex, you'll notice that it's not anchored to anything. To fix that, I'm going to get my Split Polygon tool, and we'll make a split right up this new polygon that I created. We'll grab this vertex, and I'll snap it to this vertex, and we'll merge those two together. So now you can see we're starting to build a little bit of a wall there. So now what I'm going to do is grab these two edges. Let's extrude the both of them straight down in Y world. I'll scale them down a bit in Y world as well. And then I'll just grab this vertex here on the end, snap it out here to its next door neighbor, and we'll merge these to center. Now let's grab these next two edges, extrude again, switch over to vertices, snap over, and merge. So you see a distinct pattern taking place here. The other alternative you can do is you can grab these edges, you can extrude them outward in World X. Go ahead and scale them in a little bit to flatten everybody up. Then before you try merging anything, go ahead and get your Split Polygon tool out. I'll just get mine with the Y key. And we'll place a split straight down like so. And we can snap this vertex together. Merge. And we'll snap this one in as well. And merge. Make sure those did merge. There we go. Now, because we extruded this part in, we now have sort of a lip here that we need to extrude into. So I'll grab these two edges, we'll extrude them, I'll pull them both forward in World Z, grab the two vertices up here at the corner, and merge those together. Now, back here, things are going to get a little bit interesting, because we still have yet to extrude up the bottommost edge. Let's go ahead and do that now. So I'll grab this edge all the way down the door. Like so. We'll extrude this up in Y world just a bit. Now let's switch over to vertices. And let me zoom up my camera on something to get a little more focus back in. I'm going to grab this vertex here at the end. We'll snap it right up here. And notice we have a little bit of a gap where we were beveling earlier. It's not really a problem, just keep that in mind. And then we can grab the append to polygon tool and fill that back in. Just make sure you take a look at your smooth model, see if anything really crazy happened. We have a little bit of pinching right there, but I'm not going to stress about that right now. Let me go ahead and take these two vertices and I'll snap these together. Now what I'm going to do is grab these edges, like so. Just double check, take a look at what I'm doing in the picture here. I'm going to make this little rounded area down here underneath the door. We can grab all of these at once. And let's extrude out. I'll just pull these out in World X. Not too much, because we're going to need to kind of do a little bit of tweaking to line everybody up anyways. I'll go ahead and snap this all the way out to here, and then just kind of play with your vertices and get some general smoothing in this direction like so. Because we do want this to taper down. It doesn't need to stay super thick all the way throughout the door. So just take a moment and close all that up. Whoops. Must have grabbed somebody I didn't mean to. Right. And let's go ahead and grab our split edge ring tool. We'll put one split right here that we can use to merge these two vertices. Let's also merge these while we're here. And take a look at our smooth model, and you can see how we're starting to get the shape that we're actually going for. Now, if we take a look at our photos, there's a lot of, I guess what you can call like bare door showing up here at the front. You can't make it out too much, and fortunately for us, nobody would be able to make it out that much anyway. There's really not an easy way to get a camera up there to see it. So if we want to take a few liberties with that, well, we're more than welcome. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab these edges up here across the front of the door. Whoops. I'll go all the way up to, I guess about here will do. And we'll extrude these. And I'm going to pull them back. Now I pulled them back in local Z, and it looks like I missed somebody, so let's make sure I go back and get him, and then I'll redo the extrusion. I tapped the undo key, by the way, in case you were wondering. And let's grab vertices and clean up some of the motions we just made. We'll snap that in place. Whoops. And merge up. Let's go ahead and grab our append to polygon tool. Like so. And a little bit of pinching there, but again, we won't stress about that right now. If it becomes a problem later, we can tweak it out. We have a little bit of adjustment that needs to be done here. And notice what I'm doing here. I'm going to go ahead and pull all of this back pretty far, actually. I mean, our pads make it up here to just beyond the mirror and then kind of die off, and there's still a bit of doorway left. So I guess you could say more or less that I'm just sort of filling this in with the same paneling that's on the outside of the door. And you can see what we're kind of doing here. Now I'm going to create an outward extrusion that I can kind of merge in with all of this. So let's go ahead and do that. Switch over to world coordinates. I'll just pull over once and then pull over twice, both times in world coordinates, and then I can just tweak out the detail that I just created. So let's grab these two vertices, merge to center, grab these two, just press G, do the same thing, and there we go. You can see the shape starting to come together. Now let's see. I don't imagine that a lot of this needs to come out quite so far. And then again, maybe it does, because we do have, a lot of the mechanical workings, like there's a pneumatic arm that needs to go in there and whatnot. So I won't be too hasty to squash all of this in, but I will kind of clean up this area here at the end of the door. Let's see, maybe take sort of an average. I know I keep kind of going back and forth, but this is an area of the door that unless you have some schematics, you have to kind of make up a little bit. Just make it work. Alright, I'll just take a moment, separate and clean up some of these vertices. Remember to keep looking at your vertices in multiple angles too, so that you don't get confused as to what is where and exactly the position of everything in 3D space. It's real easy to do. Okay. Get rid of some of this bending and tearing. Okay, that's a good start. Now, if we go back here to the photo, this little indented area we have at the back is going to shoot back in. It doesn't just stay back here. It's like the padding doesn't come this far back. We need to kind of continue the wall on inward. So let's go ahead and do that. Extrude this edge. Let's just pull this forward in world. And I'll grab these two vertices and merge these up. Now we are producing a bit of a gap up here on top of the door. Don't worry about that just now. We will be getting to it though. There's how that's all kind of fitting together. Not looking too bad, really. We can go ahead and make the little gap that's back here that the car kind of latches down onto. Let's go ahead and grab these two faces. I'll hit extrude. Take your offset, we'll set it to, let's try 0.2, nah, too much. 0.1, maybe somewhere in the middle, 0.15. I think we can go with that. Grab edges, and then let's clean this edge up. Kind of line it back up here where it was to begin with. Not bad. Now, I'm going to grab my split polygon tool, and here's kind of a trick. You can use this one. Notice I'm splitting from the corner to just inside the corner, back out to the corner, then corner, just inside the corner, back out to the corner. Grab edges, take this edge, click on the x-axis, control click on it anyways, and then pull inward, and there you go, instant indentation. Now if I just beveled those two things, I guess I didn't end up with any major problems. I figured I'd end up with some sort of nasty pinching somewhere. And it's in there somewhere. There you go. There had to be pinching in there. So let's see. Let's see if I can clean some of that out with a little bit of this and maybe a little bit of this. This may or may not work. Okay. And I think I got most of it. I think it's actually going to work well enough to move along. And let's grab these faces back here, and let's extrude them. Pull them out just a little bit. Nah, changed my mind on that. We won't worry about that. It just didn't look right, and I really didn't want to fight it. Not for a piece that nobody's really ever going to see. So, and make sure I didn't, looks like I over-selected a little bit. So what I want to do is I want to grab all of these faces and scale them together a little bit. Just watch your selection really closely. Okay, and looks like we have a little bit of dimpling taking place in the center of this. I'm going to merge in a couple of vertices. Still a little dimpled, but not really all that bad. Let me grab this edge and we'll bevel it, and then I'll grab some vertices and kind of merge them together to clean things up. Let's do some snapping first, just for sake of being sharp about it all. And we'll snap this over here. Whoops, looks like I might have got a few more people than I meant to. Alright, and that looks quite a bit better. Okay, so now all of that is attached. Now we have some interesting connections we kind of need to make up here. What I'm going to do is grab my split polygon tool, put a split here, right mouse, a split here, and right mouse. Then I'll grab my append to polygon tool and basically just fill in these polygons, which makes a little bit of pinching here, but I'm not too stressed about that, really. I could probably fix some of it. Well, one, by making sure I don't have any hanging pieces. That's not too bad. It's a little bit dented, but I'm not too stressed about that. I could get rid of the denting by either adding some more points or cranking up my face count, neither of which I'm really all that enthused about doing. And it's such a out-of-the-way little spot. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is walk along the inside of this piece, like so, grabbing all of these edges all the way around. And to like so. Let's extrude these edges, and I'll just push these in a little bit. All I really want to do here is make a little more thickness before I start blending over into the pads. So you'll probably need to come in here and tweak some of these out by hand, based on whatever direction local Z turned out to be for each of those edges. So don't worry about that, but do take the time to kind of clean things up. Okay. And the rest of these look like they pretty much went inward. A few tweaks here and there aside. Probably need to straighten some of these out. Let's frame up on that area. And we can pull this up, slide this back. You know the drill. Just tweaking the verts. Okay, so from here, let's give a little bit of an extra tug on some of our topmost edges. Here's our windshield. I'm going to temporarily just hit Control H on that and get it out of my way. I'll grab all these edges up here by the window. Let's extrude these inward. And, oh, well, Y didn't quite get us there. I didn't really think it would, though. So just a little bit more thickness. Something to kind of help us out a little bit to make a more of a transition. And I'll kind of fold it downward for now. And I'm also going to do something just a little bit different here. I'm going to grab this face. I'm going to delete it. I'm going to grab my split edge ring tool and put a split all the way down this row of faces. And that is so that I can anchor to this point. Let's go ahead and merge. And I can anchor to this point. Notice I didn't go back one. I'm actually kind of leaving a triangular hole there. And we'll merge these, and I'll grab my append to polygon tool. We'll fill that in. And there we go. That just gives us a little more thickness to play with up here. Now, what's going on up here in this area is a little interesting, but shouldn't be all that hard to clean up. I'm going to start off by grabbing my append to polygon tool, and I'm just going to make some appends to generally close in this entire blind spot area. You can see how that's affecting everything. Okay, now we have a split that runs right down the middle of this piece, so we can't anchor here yet, but we need a split that runs down this anyways. So let's grab the split edge ring tool, and we can put that split right in. And now that we have all of this selected, let's see if we can just click. I'm going to control click on the Z axis and just pull all this stuff out a little bit, so it just creates a little bit of general rounding, like you see here. Let's grab our split edge ring tool again, and I'll make a split here and a split here. And we'll attach these on the back a little bit later. Now I'm actually going to pull these out vertex by vertex. And you can see how this is adding some nice thickness for us to work with. So our blind spot is no longer paper thin. And just be really careful as we go through and kind of tweak this out. Pull this out. It gets a little bit tricky here because the area is a little bit convoluted, but we'll take a look at that here in just a moment. We'll kind of work our way down. Okay, now over here, pull out. I think I'll pull this piece out just a little bit more. And by the look of things, that's going to give us some relatively nice quads that we can append into, except for one little area. So let's go ahead. I'll grab the append to polygon tool. We can append this straight across with no problems. This one, we append, and we're going to have a little tiny open triangle we got to fill in as well. I think that's enough to get the job done. So we'll go with it. Let's go back to vertices. And just give a few tugs here. It's usually a good idea to focus your camera up on whatever it is you're tweaking on. Don't forget that, because I see a lot of people stay in one camera area for too long. Or I think my favorite, the one that always throws me off and makes me have to stop talking for a minute to before I say anything about it, is using Maya one-handed. So they'll have their hand on their mouth, the other hand maybe cupping their chin or whatever. And so they're not moving their camera at all, because you can't do that with one hand. That really bothers me. Okay, so now let's see, now that we've created all of these polygons, without really any concern for how they would connect, let's see how we can connect them. Let's start here. We'll grab these two edges and let's extrude these outward. I'll grab this vertex and snap, whoops, and merge. Whoops, okay, just trying to see what in the world I was looking at right there. Let me grab my append to polygon tool, and we'll append right up through there, which takes care of that. And append out to there, and these are all kind of starting to fall together now. Let's grab some of our vertices out here, and we can start pulling these outward. And tweaking some of this area around to help us out a little bit as well. Let me just see if a curve snap will help me right there. And up here as well, and up here as well. Just do a lot of curve snapping. Pull some polygons back. Alright, and looks like things are going my way so far. Let's grab our append tool again, and I can append straight across there, and straight across there. And these are closing up pretty well, I guess. Certainly seen worse in my time. Let's go back to vertices, and I'll get my move tool out. Let's pull some of these away. I think I see how I want this to connect. It's just going to be a matter of doing it. And depending on whether or not you followed me along really, really closely, or if you just kind of occasionally went off and did your own thing on the model, you'll probably have a very different story to tell right here, and that's fine. But by now you guys have been working and tweaking for so long that I imagine you guys can handle just about anything that the polygons are going to throw at you. Pull these out here in the open. And hang on just a sec, that's not really the way I wanted those to attach right there. I want you to go here, and then I need to clean up. Look at all this. It's just crazy, isn't it? And let's pull both of these forward a bit. Good. So that's all starting to kind of come together. Now that's two vertices. Let's go ahead and merge those right there. And we can take this, probably bring him right there, select the both of them, merge those, and that should really iron out a pretty good chunk of this. Probably just get rid of that vertex. It'll form a triangle right there, but that's not the worst thing in the world. So now that I've got everybody connected, it's just a matter of pulling some vertices around, kind of smoothing everything out. Snap this out a little bit so I can get some nicer blending going on. We can pull that in and pull that in. You can kind of see it starting to straighten itself out. Just takes time. One of my favorite things about freeform modeling too is just getting in there and taking a pile of vertices and making them look like something. Now, let's see here. A lot of this area let's see, if we open up our photo, we're going to start getting into padding if we get back this far. So I'm not too worried about a little bit of denting back here because we're going to be covering it all up with upholstery here in just a bit. So we'll just make it look nice back to about here. And then we'll let all our leather padding come in and do its work a bit later on. Alright. So I think that is going to pretty much work for the inside of the door, and with that we are ready to move on and start creating the pads. It's probably a good idea to come in here and delete out all the history you just created, because you probably created quite a bit. And that'll go ahead and wrap it up for this video. Thanks a lot.